What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. There was an interview published by Pokemon.com with Mr. Nagashima, who is the lead designer at Creatures for the Pokemon TCG. So that's the design team over in Japan that actually makes all of the Pokemon cards. So this is a really interesting article to read, so I'm just going to kind of go through it, read it, and talk about my thoughts on things, and thought this would be a nice casual video, but also really good to get some insight on how the cards are designed and things like that. So this was published a few weeks ago. I just never got around to doing this video, so we're doing it now. Let's get into it. An interview with Tsushi Nagashima, game director, Pokemon trading card game, reveals secrets for Darkness Ablaze. Yeah, I should have said that. This is for Darkness Ablaze specifically. I've seen these types of things before, but they don't do it for every set. I hope they start doing it for every set, though. So let's see. Mr. Nagashima has been involved with the Pokemon TCG since 2001, and he was able to share behind-the-scenes information, such as how they choose which Pokemon will be on new cards, pulls back the curtain to reveal some finer details about the Pokemon TCG's gameplay mechanics. So yeah, he's been involved for a very long time, although design teams have changed and the game changed hands and stuff. Mr. Nagashima has been involved in designing the cards for a really long time, which is cool. So he's been a part of it through what we consider to be really good designed formats, really bad designed formats, somewhere in between. So it's cool to see that they've had somebody that's been through it all that's still working on the game. So the first question is, do you look for ways to make cards synergistic? Are card combinations mostly discovered organically through gameplay? If you set them up intentionally, have you ever had an instant when fans did not discover a combination? So Mr. Nagashima said, normally there is something we're aiming for with all the cards when we create them. Each card is designed with its own synergies in mind, some simple and some more complicated, depending on the role of that particular card. I doubt there are many combinations players haven't found, but we take a broad approach, so maybe there are a few. As a developer, it makes me very happy when players discover one of the more complicated synergies. Additionally, sometimes skilled players put cards to uses beyond what we expected. As a developer, being outfoxed in that way is also very exciting. And typically when cards are put to uses beyond what are expected, that's when we see like just really like strong or oppressive cards, or even cards that get banned and whatnot. But yeah, so this is just specifically on Darkness Ablaze. How do you decide which cards get to be Pokemon VMAX? They don't seem to always correlate to Gigantamax Pokemon from the video games. And Mr. Nagashima said, often we make that choice based on questions such as what will be most interesting for the metagame, what sort of worldview do we want to express with that series, and what Pokemon types do we want to feature in the product in question. We also actively look for Pokemon that might have not gotten full attention in the video game, but can be put to good use as a card and really shine. And I definitely see them do this. So like they gave VMAXs to Pokemon like Malamar, Morpeko, Scentiscorch, which might not be like the most popular or most overused Pokemon in the VGC. So that is cool that they do that, but that's not really like a design thing, but something very cool to see. Now, this next part's really interesting to me. With the Sword and Shield expansion, we saw some swapping of traditional types, such as traditional poison type Pokemon changing to darkness types in the Pokemon TCG, where prior they were psychic, and even before that they were grass. What was the primary reason for this, and has it played out as you expected? Or wait, were they grass and then psychic? It's been a while. They were psychic at one point and grass at one point. So what was the primary reason for this, and has it played out as you expected? Mr. Nagashima had to say, making darkness types weak to grass and fighting types has the advantage of dispersing weaknesses. Also, the TCG was previously characterized by a rock, paper, scissors relationship between grass, fire, and water types. But that relationship allowed the metagame to progress too quickly, so grass weak to fire, fire weak to water, water weak to grass. You'll notice that a lot of the new water types are weak to lightning instead. So with the Sword and Shield series, we began focusing compatibility around 5 types: grass, fire, water, lightning, fighting. Darkness types represent a new change as a type that's related to 2 of those core types. This change opens up a lot of tactical possibilities. So I love this so much. So instead of grass weak to fire, fire weak to water, water weak to grass, that creates a triangle. Now they have grass weak to fire, fire weak to water, water weak to lightning, lightning weak to fighting, and then fighting weak to grass or fighting. I'm sorry, fighting, and then fighting weak to grass, but then dark is related to 2 of those. Dark is related to both the beginning and the end of the triangle. So that's really, really cool, and I like that they're looking for more complexity there, even though it's kind of like, it's not intrinsic complexity within the card design, but more so that there can't be like, if there was a really good grass, a really good fire, and a really good water type, that would create like a triangle of those 3 cards being at the top of the metagame. But with water being weak to lightning more common than being weak to grass, then that doesn't really allow for that one that cycle of 3 decks to really be created in the same way. So I really like that insight, and I hope they continue putting that that kind of external complexity, or like that meta design. It's not actually part of a specific card, but like they say, it opens up a lot of tactical possibilities. I really appreciate that, and I'm really happy they gave that insight. So every once in a while, there's a card like Galarian Darmanitan that is clearly designed around unique aspects of that Pokemon from the video game. What is the process like for translating video game concepts to the trading card game? This is an interesting one. Not really card design, but, well, it is card design, but not like gameplay mechanics, I should say. Mr. Nagashima said, "We start with as thorough an understanding as we can gather of that Pokemon's characteristics in the video game and the contents of its Pokedex entry. From there, we discuss various options that we feel will best emulate this new mechanic within the TCG. The important point is to represent the Pokemon in a way that is both simple and interesting for the card game, and that can be enjoyed by as many people as possible." I don't like the word simple being used there, but I do like the flavor of things like the Darmanitan that uses water energy to attack. How do you decide which human characters to match to specific trainer card effects, Mr. Nagashima? Sometimes we look at the way characters or tools are depicted in the video games and think of interesting effects that they could have in the TCG. Other times we start with the effect that we want, and then we match it to the character or other element that seems to fit that effect. I've been talking about this with some of my friends. The Cramomatic, the Cramorant, like robot thing in the Sword and Shield DLC. I really would love them to make that into an item card that is like a Pokemon communication, but for trainers. So like an item card that says you can put back any trainer to search out any other trainer. That's just like some of that flavor that I would love that it's kind of mentioned here, like looking at what characters and tools do in the video game and bringing it over to the TCG. Just a little blurb about what goes on in my head about the Cramomatic. On occasion, we'll see cards like Mew and Dracovish in this expansion that share similar abilities or attacks with popular cards from the past, or most of the cards in this set, or Eternus VMAX. But yeah, what considerations do you have to take when revisiting popular concepts? Mr. Nagashima: "First, we thoroughly analyze what kind of effects past cards have had, and then we explore how those effects should evolve." So looking at Mew V, the X-Ball attack that's been on Mewtwo before. That's been Energy Drive on Tapu Lele, and Dracovish has the Primal Law. As long as this Pokemon's in the active spot, your opponent can't play any Pokemon from their hand to evolve their Pokemon. That was on Archaeops, but Archaeops had to be on the bench for this. Or, I'm sorry, it didn't have to be in the active. It could be on the bench for this to work. And Mr. Nagashima went on to say, "Even when a technique or combo has the same effect as a previous card, we designed a new card to create a different and exciting experience. It can be a change in which Pokemon now has that effect, or different interactions with the many other cards that make up the game environment." So with Mew V, they put it on a new Pokemon. And it also costs double Psychic instead of 2 colorless energy. With Dracovish, they changed the Pokemon and they changed how the ability worked because now it has to be in the active. So unfortunately, Dracovish will just see no play at all because needing it to be in the active just isn't any good. So they nerfed the ability too much there, but that's not really the point of this. The next one's really, well, not the first part, but this gets very, very interesting, this last part here. So could you talk us through the development of the following cards from Sword and Shield? This is just how you, Sword and Shield Darkness Ablaze, such as how you devise their abilities and attacks, how you balance those with other elements such as HP and retreat cost. So the first one here, Corviknight, has like no playability at all, but he mentions that the idea for Corviknight comes with the flying taxis, which players of the video games should be familiar with. Corviknight can shuttle Pokemon into the player's hand, so that is cool flavor, but the card just can't be played because it's a stage 2 right now. Mr. Nagashima, it's difficult to raise up and evolve multiple Pokemon at once. Our objective with this card is to encourage decks with multiple evolving Pokemon. That's a good start there, Mr. Nagashima. I like the way your mind is thinking. So Pokemon Breeders Nurturing, unfortunately, it's not seeing much play. It's basically like double Evo Soda. So it's a supporter card. Choose up to 2 of your Pokemon in play. For each of those Pokemon, search your deck for a card that evolves from that Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon to evolve it, then shuffle your deck. You can't use this card during your first turn or on a Pokemon that was not put into play this turn. So if it didn't have that last effect, like, we need acceleration for evolutions. So if it said, like, specifically not a VMAX Pokemon, and you could put it down, you could evolve it on the first turn or on a Pokemon that was just put into play, or even if it was like double rare candy and it's skipped the rare candy, it skipped that step. Those are some buffs that I would have liked to see with Pokemon Breeders Nurturing, because all this does is searches out the Pokemon for you. It doesn't accelerate it at all. It doesn't help you match the speed and power of VMAX and GX Pokemon. But yeah, it's nice to see the design lead saying this. Our objective with this card is to encourage decks with multiple evolving Pokemon. So hopefully they continue encouraging decks with multiple evolving Pokemon. Mr. Nagashima, and the TCG, when people think of Charizard, they probably think of big damage. This version of Charizard is capable of doing 300 damage, which is a stunning amount even compared to other VMAX cards. I like that they say that because it just kind of makes it a fact that they're cognizant of the kind of the damage cap they have on these VMAXs, that they don't have VMAXs one-shotting each other, and that's really good. Lastly here, no, sorry, this isn't lastly. This is on Grimmsnarl VMAX, which is just a absolutely bad card. Mr. Nagashima, Grimmsnarl has an image as a powerful fur-covered Pokemon, so we designed this version so it would become more powerful when energy is attached to it. I love that. It makes a great combo with the Darkness Ablaze version of Hydreigon, which allows a player to instantly attach maximum energy. That's great and all, but this has the same damage output as Eternatus, so there's no reason to ever play this instead of Eternatus. Mr. Nagashima, Eternatus VMAX is a mammoth presence in the original story. True. We chose to represent that in the TCG by giving it an HP of 340, which is the largest HP to date. True. Additionally, Eternatus was meant from the beginning of the series to have major implications for the metagame, so we designed this series so that it would also create a big splash in the TCG game environment. Naturally, in addition to the card data, we considered how it would connect to other Pokemon and the tactical options it would create. So, they, of course, the set's called Darkness Ablaze. It has a lot of strong dark cards, so they knowingly wanted to push this new archetype into the format, which they did successfully, and I think Eternatus VMAX is as balanced as it could be, while also being more powerful than the general tag team Pokemon, or I shouldn't even say the general tag team Pokemon, than the meta dominant tag team Pokemon. Because if Dreadend did not include itself in the 30 times and it capped at 240, then Eternatus still might not be powerful enough to overcome tag team Pokemon. He went on to say, at Creatures, we have a team of TCG playtesters who play the game throughout the day to gather as much data as they can on how a card performs. Their role is to check the playability of the new cards and game mechanics, while making sure that the game stays balanced after releasing a new expansion. The playtesters need to anticipate the strategies that competitive TCG players will choose once the new cards are introduced to the public, and how these cards will interact with the ones from previous sets. Some modifications that might be requested based on testing are reducing or increasing HP and damage. The creative team works in close communication with testers, using their feedback to help achieve the kind of game we hope to create. So I love all of this. My thing is, I think this has gotten less effective over the years as Japan has been putting out more and more product, or at least it seems like they're putting out more product. Because Japan is on is it a 1.5 month or every 2 month release? I think it's every 1.5 to 2 months they release like a half set, and those half sets combine into our full sets. But then they also release like supplementary cards every now and then, starter decks with new cards in it. So I think maybe if they slowed down their release schedule, the balance might be done a little bit better, and we would have a game that a little less people complained about the balance of. Because it makes me happy that they acknowledge this, that they want to encourage decks with more evolving Pokemon. They noticed that it's not great to evolve multiple Pokemon right now. Like, you just want to get a VMAX in and you're good to go. You start swinging. But they also, I think, were cognizant of the fact that Eternatus needed to include itself here to overcome the power of tag teams. At least that's what I like to believe. So yeah, that's the end of that article, but I really love these, and I will probably read every single one. If they like put one of these out once a week, I would be reading them all and doing these kinds of videos. So let me know if you like this kind of video. I thought I was in full screen. Did I leave full screen by mistake? Let me know if you like this kind of video where I read these articles and talk about my thoughts on it, because I love doing this. I could do this every day, all day. Yeah, so hope you enjoyed this. Subscribe. I promise I can speak. I just did it for 17 minutes and 25 seconds. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this content and would like to see more Celios Network YouTube content on your subscription feed. Leave a like on the video so more people can see this video. Shouts out to PotownStore.com, my lovely sponsor. And I'll see you next time here on Celios Network.